Hello, it's time for Chapter 7 of Salsa Stories. So, Chapter 7 is The Lord of Miracles, Doña Josefa's Story. Many years ago, on a misty October afternoon in Lima, Peru, I watched Mama bake turrón de Doña Pepa. Even though she made it every year before the procession for the Lord of Miracles, I'd never asked her why. Why do you bake turrón in October? I asked. Why is this the only time they sell it all over the city? ¿Por qué? ¿Por qué? She sighed as she sprinkled the freshly baked nugget with tiny colorful candies. Always asking questions, Josefa. Why? It is because this is the month of the Lord of Miracles. Not satisfied with her answer, I continued to ask more questions. Who was Doña Pepa? And why do so many people dress in purple around this time? Finally, I wore Mama out and she said, I really should tell you the beautiful story that goes with the nougat. After all, you are named after its creator, Josefina Marmanillo. Then, handing me a piece of the honey glazed sweet, she led me to the balcony where she sat next to each other. And as we watched the breathtaking procession down below, this is the story she told. It all began in colonial times when Lima was home to the Quechua Indians. It was also home to the Spanish colonists and to the Morenos, who were brought from Africa as slaves. It was then that an old building with a thatched roof stood inside the city's stone walls. Some say it was a leprosarium. Others say it was a brotherhood of Indians and Morenos. Yet, there are those who believe that it was a barracks for African slaves. What is true, however, is that on a big adobe wall of this building, an Angolan slave had painted an unusually beautiful black image of Christ. A few years later, in 1655, a powerful earthquake shook Lima. It demolished everything, from government palaces, mansions, and monasteries to the humblest of homes. Thousands of lives were lost to the mighty tremors. But in the wake of its destruction, survivors gathered on top of the rubble of the old building to witness a phenomenal sight. The fragile adobe wall where the Moreno Christ had been painted stood perfectly intact. Word of the event spread among the slaves, and the haunting image of the Black Christ became a source of miracles for many. Some of the faithful are said to have been healed of incurable diseases. Others vowed to have been granted long-awaited favors. So in time, the painting became known as El Señor de los Milagros. By the 1700s, a church was built to house the image, and the purple-clad nuns from the convent next door became the caretakers of the shrine. It was around this time that Josefina Marmanillo lived. Josefina was a slave woman who worked on a cotton farm in a coastal valley south of Lima, known to all as Doña Pepa the Morena. She spent long days in the farmhouse kitchen, kneading, pounding, peeling, and slicing with her big wrinkled hands, and even in the strongest desert heat she never failed to sing while she worked. She would stop only to laugh when one of the children of the house sneaked in to steal her scrumptious sweets. One day while working in the kitchen, a weakness overcame her. Later she noticed her chores took longer to do, and soon even the simplest task became impossible. Her cheerful laugh was silenced, and as her arms became paralyzed, her master freed her. For so many years, Doña Pepa had thrived on caring for all the people that delighted in her wonderful cooking and baking. Now she was crippled. Although I do want to note, she was a slave, and it says she was freed. I don't think it's appropriate when stories glorify being a slave. Which kind of feels like this might be just a smidge. Maybe not. That October, when Doña Pepa heard about El Señor de los Milagros and the procession that was to be held in his honor, her hopes soared, and she boarded a ship bound for the capital city. The Morena believed that if she joined the religious caravan and followed the Christ bearer on her knees as a sacrifice to the Lord of Miracles, she might be cured. It was a chilly day that October when the freed slave arrived in Lima. Above the city hovered the garua, a damp, cold mist that blocked the sun. The city looked as mournful as the procession itself. Doña Pepa looked at the Moreno Christ from the distance, then fell to her knees and joined the followers. She found herself surrounded by others who, like her, had placed their hopes in the Lord of Miracles. Enveloped by the soothing rhythm of continuous prayer, she accompanied the painting of Christ through long cobblestone streets and hard dirt roads, until her long skirt was torn and her knees bled. She endured the pain for many long hours, and just as she felt she could not take any more, a tingling sensation suddenly returned to her fingertips. It crept up past her elbows, then went to her shoulders. Had her prayers been answered? Slowly she clasped her hands together, then she pinched her forearms. She could move her arms and hands again. She fell to the ground and wept, for the Moreno Christ had heard her. "Ay, Señor de los Milagros," she whispered, "whatever you ask of me, I shall do." Doña Pepa spent the next few weeks trying to think of a way she could thank the Lord of Miracles. The answer finally came to her in a dream. She dreamed of orange blossom honey perfumed with lemons and laced with anise seed. When she woke up the next morning, she ran to her tiny kitchen and invented a luscious nougat candy. As soon as it was ready, she filled the tray with the sweet confection and rushed to the courtyard of the Moreno Christ shrine where the poor gathered. There she gave nougat to each man, woman, and child. At first she told her story to all who asked her why she did this. Then she retold it to all who would listen. It is said that every October until her death, Doña Pepa baked large trays of the golden delicacy to feed the needy, and as she told her story, she offered them hope for a miracle of their own. Mama said as she finished her story, "You know, my dear Josefa, Lima has witnessed hundreds of processions for the Lord of Miracles since they started in 1687. Year after year, you've seen how hundreds of thousands of believers cloaked in purple, like the first caretakers of the Moreno Christ, come to profess their faith. And you've seen how in the path of the procession, buildings are lavishly adorned with purple garlands of flowers. You've heard the chants and the prayers that mingle with the fragrance of incense in the dim candlelight, and you've seen the gold and silver bier with the painted image of El Señor de los Milagros that is carried through Lima's streets. But of all the gifts of song, incense, and myrrh offered to the Black Christ, none compared to the humble gift of the Morena." And that is why, to this day, Josefa, her delicious nugget is sold on every street corner of the city. It is to remind us what true faith in the Lord of Miracles can bring. So, that was chapter 7. I believe we only have one more chapter to go tomorrow. Oh, 2 more. Yep. So 2 more chapters. All right. You all have a great day.